If you haven't seen the previous part, be sure to check it out. 3 days prior to the commencement of the second stage, snow carpeted the grounds of the Central Intelligence Bureau. The chill in the atmosphere wasn't solely from the freezing weather but from Axion's uncle, whose malicious grin hinted at something far more sinister than frost. Axion stood stiffly as his uncle rifled through a container, eventually pulling out what appeared to be an innocent marble. But in this world, nothing was truly innocent. With the theatrical flair of a villain delivering a dramatic soliloquy, his uncle elaborated on the marble's purpose. It enhanced the energy of fiends trapped within, creating an anti-field safety zone to repel other fiends. Then, to demonstrate its power, he shattered the marble, releasing a swirling haze of purple and black motes. The disturbance condensed into a hideous, four-eyed creature with a maw wide enough to swallow Axion whole. Before Axion could fully process the situation, shadows surged from his uncle's feet, taking the form of a dragon that obliterated the fiend in a single devastating strike. The spectacle left Axion torn between admiration and disbelief at the monstrous legacy he seemed to have inherited. Unfazed by Axion's inner turmoil, his uncle continued detailing the next step of their scheme. The objective of the second stage was straightforward: exterminate fiends and amass points. However, Axion's mission was far more specific and vindictive. His task was to lure Theo out using the marbles. Axion, never one to embrace subtlety, suggested torturing Theo first to wring out every shred of information about the Rose Palace relic. His uncle, the ever-pragmatic voice of reason, reminded him that Theo wasn't someone to be underestimated. "Restraint has never been your forte," he chided, earning a murderous glare from Axion, whose clenched fists cracked audibly. Instead, they would exploit Theo's emotional vulnerability, targeting his treasured followers from Training Ground 4. Fast forward to the present, and Axion's plan was unraveling. Theo hadn't risen to the bait. Instead of participating in fiend hunting like a conventional contender, Theo had opted for a Where's Waldo approach, remaining elusive. With only 12 hours left on the clock, Axion brooded in growing irritation, his rank of 860 points doing little to soothe his temper. Behind him, pulsating lights announced the arrival of Felix Ragnar, a swordsman from Plum Blossom Palace and currently ranked 7th with 446 points. Felix, ever the self-proclaimed investigator, suggested Theo might have been apprehended by the council scoundrels. Axion's retort was cutting, a frigid, soul-piercing glare followed by a sneering jab: "Your deductions are as pathetic as your rank." To twist the knife further, Axion ridiculed Felix's association with Lady Plum Blossom. Felix's jaw tightened, his hands quivered slightly, but he wisely restrained himself, unwilling to retaliate. Axion dismissed him with a wave, declaring it was time to drag Theo out of hiding. Gathering members of the Scaled Dragon Society in Plum Blossom Palace, Axion laid out a plan to systematically hunt down Theo's companions. The Scaled Dragon members grinned maliciously, relishing the prospect. Unknown to Axion, an eavesdropper lurked nearby. Concealed behind a tree, Ragnar, ranked 3rd with 561 points, listened intently. In the shadowy, echoing forest, the agonized shriek of a dying forest lizard reverberated. A band of hunters stood triumphantly over its carcass, the rancid odor of blood mingling with the earthy scent of damp moss. This wasn't just any forest lizard but a mid-tier fiend. The hunters, however, basked in their own inflated sense of accomplishment. Among them was Sybil, ranked 68th with a paltry 31 points, barely managing to escape the realm of participation awards. He clutched a yellow demon bell, a keepsake from an earlier triumph over a fiend that had somehow been even less formidable than their current prey. His comrades, Gordon, ranked 53rd with 52 points, and Romero, ranked 62nd with 36 points, shared in his self-satisfaction, equally thrilled by their modest triumphs. If points were currency, Sybil and his crew would still be destitute, but at least they were breathing. Sybil held up the yellow demon bell, a lackluster emblem of mediocrity, and grumbled, 12 hours left, where's Theo? His tone carried less worry for Theo's well-being and more irritation over their meticulously saved supplies now feeling like wasted effort. The group's self-proclaimed strategist speculated with a blend of respect and cynicism, Theo's probably orchestrating something big. He's not like us, scrounging for points just to scrape by. The resident optimist added with a spark of excitement, what if he takes the top spot again? His glee earned a round of annoyed glances, Without warning, Orion Gardner, ranked 14th with a formidable 173 points, drove his blade through Sybil's back. The gruesome crunch of steel-piercing flesh echoed sharply, and Sybil's victorious grin contorted into a mask of shock as blood darkened his clothes. Orion yanked his sword free with a flourish. "You're nothing more than fodder," he said icily, his disdain as cutting as his blade. His frosty stare locked onto the others, daring them to act. As he raised his sword again, chaos erupted. Meanwhile, as if destiny couldn't resist checking in on its chosen protagonist, the scene shifted to Theo. Deep within Lord Brock's nest, Theo stood in the ominous presence of the ancient dragon herself. The beast's glowing amber eyes studied him with an unnerving blend of curiosity and appraisal. Her voice, a resonant rumble akin to rolling thunder, filled the cavern as she scrutinized his progress with the mind gate, a feat he had achieved in under a month, a timeline so extraordinary it could crush the spirits of even the most gifted. A system notification flashed before Theo, proclaiming his partial mastery of the Grimoire of Amon, magical principles partially understood. Theo smirked, muttering with wry amusement, "That's my life, always the overachieving B+ in a world that demands an A++. The Grimoire, a notorious relic veiled in mystery, demanded not only immense mana but also the heart of a dragon to unravel its profound secrets. Luckily, Theo had both the mana and the dragon's heart, enabling him to advance at twice the pace of the average overburdened sorcerer. Yet, as always, the system, ever ready to crush his momentary sense of accomplishment, informed him that his stats were still subpar, granting him a skill called hatching. The ability wasn't entirely worthless, it allowed him to manipulate lingering thoughts through psychokinesis. Sure, it sounded impressive on paper, but Theo had been hoping for something far more dramatic, like conjuring infernos or bending reality itself. Lord Brock, unimpressed by his grumbling, closed her enormous eyes and remarked bluntly, "You've barely qualified to call yourself my consort." Theo blinked, dumbfounded. Consort? What kind of twisted partnership terms was this dragon operating under? Before he could respond, she continued, "You'll need rigorous training to master advanced skills. And don't forget, I've only got 2 years left. Prioritize my restoration, or we're both doomed." Her matter-of-fact tone only bolstered Theo's resolve. Flashing a determined grin, he replied, "Don't worry. I'll fix this. You're stuck with me now." Satisfied with his conviction, Lord Brock began the primordial covenant. Wisps of smoke coiled around Theo as her molten gold eyes burned brighter than ever. "You're my consort, the first in a millennium," she intoned, her voice laden with ancient authority. In a blink, she disappeared, teleporting Theo to a snow-covered mountain cliff. Standing amidst the expansive, frost-bitten wilderness, Theo exhaled a frosty sigh, his breath mingling with the biting cold. His gaze swept over the barren landscape as if willing it to offer him a lifeline. 12 hours, just 12 scant hours remained, and what did he have to show for it? A towering pile of regrets and an awakening ceremony that seemed about as useful as trying to teach a fish to climb a ladder. "This is going nowhere," he grumbled, kicking at the snow with the irritation of someone realizing they'd been playing in the wrong league all along. Hunting fiends? What a joke! It was nothing more than a glorified scavenger hunt compared to the level of skill he needed. First place wasn't just slipping through his grasp, it was sprinting away at lightning speed. Then, inspiration struck, a dim, flickering idea, but an idea nonetheless. In his prior life, Axion had claimed the top rank during the awakening ceremony. If he wanted to take that title, he needed to abandon the Boy Scout routine of scavenging fiend tokens. No, it was time to target the real prizes, other participants' spells. But just as his determination solidified into a plan, a darker thought loomed in the back of his mind like an ominous thundercloud. The name itself left a sour taste on his tongue. That guy wasn't merely tough, defeating him wasn't just challenging, it bordered on outright lunacy. The thought lingered, heavy and suffocating, casting a shadow over his freshly devised plan. Before his spiraling doubt could take hold, a faint rustling broke the oppressive silence. Theo's head snapped toward the noise, his heartbeat quickening. A figure stumbled into view, their steps uneven, leaving a grisly trail of blood across the pristine snow. Then it came, a voice, soft yet chilling, slicing through the frigid air like a dagger. Theo froze, his muscles locking as if his blood had turned to ice. His gaze darted between the stumbling figure and the dark presence that accompanied it. Yet, it wasn't the staggering person ahead that unsettled him, it was the other entity lurking just beyond sight. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling updates. See you in the next chapter.